Hello everybody, today we are going to discuss Echo by Walter de la Mare. So Walter de la Mare, you might have heard, you might know that his poems are generally highly imaginative and create a sense or evoke a sense of mystery and wonder, and this poem is no different to that thing. This poem is also like that, and a small concept, concept of echo has been discussed by the poet here in a very beautiful manner. This poem is quite a small one, and in this small poem, he is trying to tell us that how echo works and is being presented. Echo is being presented as a character in this poem. So it is something that the poet is in a forest or such a place surrounded with trees, and he is in a very sad and depressed mood, and how echo functions he is telling us, and what kind of atmosphere actually it creates there. So that is being explained here in this poem. So let's see how that all has been conveyed in a beautiful manner by Walter de la Mare. So how it begins, it is, "Who called, I said, and the words words through the whispering glades, hither, thither baffle the birds, who called, who called." So the poet, there is a rhythm and a rhyme here in the poem, we can say rhythmic poem as well. There is a music, the flow of music here, we can say. So the poet is in a forest and they are all surrounded by trees. He said, "Who called?" And there was the echo of that sound. That sound actually, it resounded through the whispering glades. So glades is actually the space between the trees. Yes, if there is a cluster of trees or lots of trees are there, so the space between or among those trees is called glade. So whispering, the word whispering creates, we can say, an onomatopoeic effect here. So here we can say the poetic device is onomatopoeia. Yes, onomatopoeia, where the sound suggests an image, where the sound suggests the thing pertaining to it, related to it. So that is called onomatopoeia. And here whispering is, it denotes actually the rustling of leaves, the sound that comes when we are among the trees. So that rustling sound, so it denotes that. That's why through the whispering glades, so that sound, it flowed through the trees, and hither, thither baffled the birds. So the birds, hearing the sound, they were all baffled and confused and puzzled when they heard the sound coming through the glades and trees. And it repeated, yes, the resound of it was there, it could be heard, "Who called, who called?" And so it puzzled all the birds. There they were all confused and anxious, hearing that sound that was coming through the glades, among the trees. And now here, so we can say a beautiful sound imagery has also been used by the poet in this poem. And we can also discuss anaphora here. Anaphora is actually repetition of a phrase or a word in a poem, which is used again and again, which is repeated again and again for the sake of poetic beauty, and also we can say to emphasize an idea, to make something more clear, emphatic. So here the poet is discussing the concept of echo, so we can say he has repeated this thing here, as happens when the sound returns reflected from a place by hitting and then coming back. So that kind of resounding is there in echo when we are, you might have experienced this kind of thing when you are in a closed compartment, or suppose at a hill or at some mountain, and you shout, and what happens, the words, the sound that returns from that place. So it is the same thing here. And the leafy boughs on the high, yes, in the second stanza the poet is telling us about what happened next. The leafy boughs on the high hissed on the sun. So that echo, that resound creates, what a desperate situation. It seemed as if even the boughs, the leaves, they were hissing on the sun. The hissing here actually suggests some desperate situation, some anxious situation full of anxiety, that the boughs which are quite high, the trees, the branches which are quite high, all covered with leaves. So the leafy boughs on the high, they seem to be hissing on the sun, rustling, and that sound, that particular sound of leaves that was there, as if that echo has puzzled those leafy boughs and the leafy branches as well. So that anxious atmosphere was there. The dark air carried my cry faintingly on. So that is, the dark air carried my cry. That means when the poet did this, when the poet shouted, "Who calls?" so the sound actually overflowed in the atmosphere. The wind actually was a carrier for his sound. It carried his sound all over, and it was disseminated and propagated everywhere, all around. The whole atmosphere overbrimmed with that sound, "Who called? Who called?" And slowly it was, fainting and muffling and eyes in the green, in the shade, in the motionless break. And so what happened, that all the creatures there, they got alert and cautious, just as it happens when they hear any movement or any such sound, they become all alert and cautious. So only the eyes were visible behind the bushes, behind the trees, as in the dark the eyes of the creatures shine. So only the eyes could be seen, only the eyes were visible. All got motionless, all got silent, all were like without any movement, they were not moving at all got so much cautious, trying to catch the sound, whatever it is, trying to understand that. And voices that said what I said for mockery's sake. Now here comes the real point, that how when somebody repeats what we say, it seems like the person is mocking us, making fun of us. And here it was just the same. When the sound returned, "Who called? Who called?" it felt as if it is making fun of the poet. "Who called? Who called?" After the poet said this, they were being repeated like this. So echo, as if as I said here, presented as a character, and the sound is being repeated again and again, and it seemed as if the poet is being mocked about, that is making fun of the poet. What we generally see, or it happens sometimes, like when after us, when somebody repeats the same thing again and again, it is simply to make fun of the person. So here it seemed that how, and the poet is perhaps trying to explain this concept of echo, that how it mocks us, how it makes fun of us. And now who cares, I bawled through my tears. Who cares, I bawled through my tears. The wind fell low. But finally, as the poet was all upset and all saddened, so when he heard this who called being repeated, he felt very sad, or he was we can say, more worried, and he was more sad, and he finally just crying and bawling through his eyes, just all tearful. He said, "Who cares? I don't care whether it makes fun of me or not. I don't care. I am not bothered about this." He simply said. And what happened? The wind fell low. The wind, which was going high, now it was low, and in the silence to and fro, who cares? Okay, in the silence, who cares? Who cares? Wailed to and fro. So finally, what, as if it was the poem has been, we can say, finished on some note of say sympathy or condolence, or it's something as if it is to sympathize with the poet's current state of sadness and sorrow. So how it happened that finally, when he felt really sad by that repetition of echo, like when he was saying "who called," the voice, the sound was repeated, so he felt very sad with this and all upset. He said, "Who cares? Means I don't care whether it makes fun of me. I don't care. I don't bother about this." And then what? The same sound, "who cares," went on repeating after that. The air carried the sound, "who cares? Who cares? Who cares?" So as if I can say that it started on a note of sorrow and sadness and depression, but it ends on a lighter note. There is a very beautiful visual sound imagery, we can say beautiful sound imagery used by the poet in this poem, and the idea of echo has been made very clear by it suggesting that how the sound is repeated when you are at such a place, a hilly area all surrounded by trees or such. So what happens that the sound comes again and again. So that's the concept here, that how when he says "who cares," that sound also goes repeating, and it kinds of provide solace in such a situation. It sympathizes with the poet's condition of sadness and sorrow. So that is how the poet ends the poem. I think it's quite clear, the idea is quite clear to you, and it's quite simple, just that, as simple as that, we can say. So I hope you understood how the idea has been conveyed here, what's the theme and what's the real concept here is. So okay, keep watching, and I'll come with more such videos on different poems. So till then, thank you, bye bye.